Hello and welcome back to Empower Your Teen. I am Emma B. Perez. Today I have brought to speak with you Dr. Ajita Robinson. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor, author, and international speaker. Dr. Robinson embodies excellence in mental health and education as a grief and trauma expert. She's a servant leader, involved member in the community, and a born giver. She believes that we all have gifts that are unique to us, and we thrive when we lean fully into those gifts and we find purpose and fulfillment. At her core, she believes that all people have the capacity to overcome adversity. Dr. Robinson has over 15 years of experience serving individuals, families, and communities, and she specializes in creating safe environments where one can begin to heal from life's hurts and live fuller lives. Dr. Ajita, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Do you mind sharing your story? How is it that you came to do what it is that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I became a counselor because I had really, really amazing experiences with my own counselors as a kid. And so that kind of laid the foundation for me. Both of my parents are in the mental health realm. And so I guess I got it the old fashioned way through exposure.
Yeah.
But I specifically became a specialist in life transitions as a result of navigating several in my own life, and then being able to witness the different transitions that my family members, my older brother, other people in my family and close to me were navigating, both well and ways that didn't look healthy. And those not healthy ways became very evident as I kind of grew and became more aware about what was actually happening, which landed me in the grief and trauma realm. I learned throughout my life and my career that grief and trauma are usually in the mix somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I appreciate it. Dr. Ajita, a lot of times I ask people about their free gift at the end of the interview, but today I want to bring it up first because I'm actually really excited about your free gift. Can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. So we created a workbook to help our teens and our parents really kind of set a goal for the gap year, also to kind of explore some of the fears and beliefs and things that might be showing up for the parent as well as for the teen that we really kind of want to hash out before we begin this process together. But the workbook is intended to help create some expectations to help us plan how we want to use our time. And not only how we use our time, but what are some of the things that we want to know and experience and to understand about ourselves on the back end of this gap year. And so that's really what the workbook is designed to do.
That's so perfect for this summit, and I thank you so much for putting that together for us. I tell families a lot of times that it's okay to take a gap year to, give your child the chance to sort of recover from burnout from school and to get a little bit of rest. But of course, a lot of our fears lie in, well, my kid's not going to do anything and they're going to get off track. So I think that this workbook is going to be a great place to start when it comes to designing some structure and some accountability for the year.
Absolutely, which can soothe, I think, some of the anxiety that our parents have about what it means to take a year off, but also create enough room for our teens to do some of the discovery and the experiences that they need in order to make the most of this gap year.
So what are some of your top recommendations for these discoveries and experiences that they can have?
So I think that engaging in radical self-care, and that I know that that is such a therapist thing to say, but it is so important. They need to recover from busy, right? They've been busy. They've been shuffled from school activities to extracurricular, so all of the things. And again, that busyness has not really created a whole lot of time for them to discover and to understand who they want to be and who they have become as a result of those previous experiences. And so this gap year really creates an opportunity for them to do that, which I think will allow them to make more informed decisions about their next steps, about whatever that next path comes, brings them to. So I think that piece is important. This is also important because a lot of our teens struggle with imposter syndrome. They also may struggle with some self-esteem issues, and then FOMO. So engaging in activities that allow them to discover who they are, their own voice, we know can buffer against this. The other reality is that we're asking them to make a pretty big decision, and they might be in decision fatigue, right? So they've had to decide a lot of things, or there's a lot of questions kind of thrown at them, and they don't know. They're not sure, and they might be afraid of making those big decisions. And so, what if we utilize this gap year to give them an opportunity to experiment and make some decisions when it doesn't have lifelong implications, right? Such as choosing a college or a career. Has a pretty big impact on the next half of our life. I think that piece is important. And so self-discovery, self-determination, and autonomy is really important, are really important tasks that can be completed across this gap year. I start with that because those are ones that I think we often lose sight of because they aren't on that list of success-based activities, but they are so important for our social emotional development, which is many of us don't discover that until we're later in life or we're unsure about that. And so think about what that gift would look like for your teens to kind of walk into early adulthood having a really solid sense of self, and what that means for their ability to advocate for themselves in professional environments, for them to advocate for others, to seek help, to make decisions when you're not around. That are grounded in what they actually believe, the things that we work so hard to instill in them. They have an opportunity to kind of practice and experiment with those things in a safe place because they're still at home. They still have our support. The consequences if they make a bad decision aren't as difficult or as don't affect them as much potentially than if they were already out on their own. And so I think giving them that room is super important. Some other things that are important is experience, professional experience. And so internships, being able to shadow other people, getting a job, volunteering, those are all things that help our teens discover things about themselves. It gives them an opportunity to learn how to network in professional spaces, to build relationships. It gives them an opportunity to figure out not only what they're good at, but what they're interested in. Ideally, we give them opportunities, or they create opportunities that allow them to discover where the balance is between those two things. It also helps them figure out what does it mean to be in a professional environment, because they've been in school all their life, and that is a different world. And so they get, again, an experience with that before it impacts their ability to pay their bills, before they are stuck in a career that they might learn that they actually hate. And so again, it creates an opportunity for them to learn things about themselves. And so I think that relationship and networking is really important. We know that that can have a big impact when they're ready to request letters of recommendation for college and for later jobs, is for them to have an opportunity, already having been able to establish relationships and maintain them. That is a lifelong skill. And if they can, travel. Again, this is another one that we don't often think about. It seems like it's just fun, but getting outside of your circle, outside of the community in which you were raised, gives you access to people, cultures, ways of life that give us a more informed lens, a more informed view of the world, a more informed view of different people who may not come from the same walks of life. Again, it allows us to develop a broader lens through which to view the world, and that we may also have a broader lens through which we can understand ourselves. And so travel is really important. Again, it is a matter of social emotional development, but also because we're sending them out into the world to be good people and to have an impact, right? And so getting outside of their circle of comfort allows them not only to grow, but also to allow them to have opportunities to serve others. I think that is an amazing experience for them, all of which can flow through and inform what they decide to do with at least this next half of their life. Those are some things that are really important to be a part of the gap year that on the back end can inform just what life looks like for them and to give them a sense of agency over those decisions. Um, I want to share another one that comes up a lot, usually on the back end of kids going off and them being on their own for the first time.
Okay.
It's basic life skills.
Yeah.
And again, it's a big one. So we've made all of their doctor's appointments for them. We've managed their schedules. We tell them where they're going next, what's expected. We've done that. We've done our jobs, but we haven't prepared them for all of the decisions, the basic life decisions that they need to make, managing their own laundry, sending out their own resumes. I always ask parents when they're thinking about whether or not their kid could benefit from a gap year, I ask them who's driving the process. Who's filling out the applications? Are they self-motivated? Are they interested? A lot of times we're pulling them along. And so again, we want them to internalize that locus of control. We want them to be able to demonstrate the ability to rally their motivation and resources, because again, those are skills that they're going to need in their educational career, in their professional career, and in life in general. And so we want to make sure that they have life skills. And if we haven't already turned over the reins, this is a good time to do that so that they begin to figure out how to organize themselves and their time, so that they can still hang out with friends, go to work or internship, and have clean clothes, right? Because those are just basics that we want them, again, to be able to figure out, how do I manage all of these different things, competing demands and priorities, while taking care of myself, while also meeting my responsibilities and doing the things that I say I'm going to do. And so those are some things that we want, that can be a part of this gap year experience, that are beneficial for our teens, but also help us adults, us parents, feel like, they're going to be okay. They're actually going to be more than okay. And here's some proof of that. It also helps us figure out where they might need more support, more experience, more nudging, perhaps, before they are off into the world.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and just imagine how they'll come to when they do fully engage in their education, whatever it ends up being, or their choice, just the life experience that they're going to have after this year versus coming straight out of high school is going to completely change
Absolutely.
how they experience what it is that they choose, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I get a lot. And you were talking about helping them kind of gain a sense of self and figure out what they really want and what they really like. The question I get is, can kids at this age really know that?
Hmm. I think that they can. I think that um, experience is one of the best teachers, and that's why giving them opportunities to explore and to experiment and be curious and to engage in these things that they think they're interested in can help them rule things out, but they also can help them rule things in. And so I think, again, um, we want to think about what are our expectations. Do we expect that we're going to know who we are now, across our entire life? Or are we more flexible and saying, okay, it's also part of the reason that I say for this next leg of their journey, because the reality is that we might learn something about ourselves in our 30s or 40s or 50s that then changes how we want to spend our time. But if we've gone through a process of self discovery and we've gone through a process of exploration, we are less likely to feel stuck and more likely to say, I know what it feels like to explore other paths because I've done this before. And it's okay to be curious. And so we might give ourselves more permission, by engaging in a gap year, or just at least having conversations about what it means to be uncertain or to be curious about multiple things when we land in a different space in our life and find that the thing that previously felt purposeful no longer aligns with, what we want to spend the rest of our time with. And so I think yes, no. That's the answer to that. Yes and no. Um, I don't think that we have to be who we are across our entire life. I think that we are multifaceted people, but there's some things that are true about us at our core. And it's so important for us to be able to figure that out without imposter syndrome, without self-esteem issues, without feeling like we're missing out, without fear driving those decisions. And I think that's one of the most beneficial things that can come from an intentional gap year, right? That gives us knowledge and insight about self and about the world in a way that if we just push through without answers to those questions, we may not ever have a space in life where we can claim that opportunity to just figure it out. I think, again, there's some skills that we build that we build during this time period they're transferable, right? They're transferable across different life experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And you're exactly right. Giving them the opportunity to do this in this year is such a safe place, because later on in life, they'll have financial commitments and family commitments and
Yes.
things like that would make
Yes.
it scarier or harder to do.
Absolutely.
So what a great time to get to do that with a little bit of buffer, a little bit of training wheels for being an adult, because I think a lot of people think that college is the training wheel, or that college
Hmm.
is the time to try lots of things out. I've come across families who, if their kid doesn't know what they want to do, they're advised to, well, just figure it out when you get into college. I'm like,
Hmm.
what an expensive way
It is.
to figure it out.
Yes. It is. It is very expensive depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of pressure there because there's not actually room to figure it out, because you walk into a space where you're expected to know
Yeah.
and you're expected to produce pretty immediately. There's not a whole lot of room. One of the other pieces that I think is an important kind of lesson that we can learn or goal to set during the gap years is how to create new habits. I think a lot about our students I think a lot about our high achieving students in particular, who didn't actually really have to study in high school. And then they get to college and they realize they don't actually have good discipline or good study habits because they were never cultivated or curated, right? Or they have habits that won't serve them well in college or post college, right? And so sometimes we can use this time to create new habits that we haven't had room to do, that we can be curious about. How do I actually study? Am I actually a night owl, or have I convinced myself to be a night owl because I'm actually a procrastinator, right? And so we get into that habit because it's what we know, but we pay for it. It doesn't actually work for us. It's not our best work. And so what if we retrain our body? What if we retrain our study habits? What if the way that we learn to take notes doesn't actually work for us, but it's the only way that we know? And so that's a new habit that might help us, that absolutely will help us when we're, in school or in a professional setting, is to be able to take effective notes. So if we're not sure about communication and we want to practice that, we might spend some time practicing or signing up for things like a Rotary Club or something like that, that might give us experience with the thing that we're noticing we're not as good at, but we want to be better on. And so creating new habits, I think, is really important.
And all of these things that you're saying are going to create just like a bag of skills, that some of it can actually be hard skills, they can actually go out there and learn some skills. But especially when
Absolutely.
you look at the workforce that they're going into, there are so many interpersonal skills that you're not really
Absolutely.
getting taught in schools anywhere, high school, college, or anything like that. That's going to be
That's
so
right.
important as our economies change, as our jobs change.
That's right.
Just to be able to be adaptable, to know yourself, know what you're good at, how to transfer your skills. I mean, that's going to be so important for just the way the workforce is changing.
Absolutely. And knowing when you need help and how to ask for it,
Yeah.
personally and professionally, is so important. And that's, communication and sometimes problem solving, because sometimes we need help with someone that is in a position of power or that we report to, but the way that we're communicating or how we're attempting to get our needs met isn't actually doing that. And so how else can we navigate that professional environment and identify who are the helpers in that space? That is important, particularly someone that works a lot with college kids
Mhm.
who experience a significant spike in anxiety and depression and self-harm. Knowing how to assess for their own sense of not being well, and how to receive support before we're in a crisis is important, but also professionally being able to communicate when there are differences in problem solving, or when we aren't feeling valued, or we're not getting our needs met at work. And again, those are transferable skills, and they are ones that they can practice and have opportunities to cultivate during a gap year that, again, will serve them throughout the rest of their life. And so I think that's a part of the goal planning. And so, what do we want that to look like? What do we feel like we need, so that we do feel ready for whatever is coming next? And what are the things that we want to be a part of this experience this year, so that we are either closer to knowing, um, and what are the things that we want to unlearn? We can learn some pretty unhealthy habits, that, again, can't go on the next leg of the journey with us. And so all of that can show up in how we shape this year.
I love it that they're learning not only new habits and new skills, but how to assess
Yes,
and then create those things for themselves.
absolutely.
There's so much power.
So important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
amazing. So I'm hearing that another good idea with the gap year is to also help them create not just the system and the structure of what they're going to do, but also a support, an accountability and support system around themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so personal and professional networks of support, formal and informal. I am a big advocate of therapy, but I'm also a big advocate of peer support. And sometimes we lose our peer groups
Mm-hmm.
when we go off, or whatever happens after high school for us. And having a gap year gives us an opportunity to create new relationships and then maintain them across distance, and over time. And again, those are really important skills to be able to develop, as well. And so those are all things that we often think are intangible skills, but that those are the soft skills. But those are the ones that kind of make us human, that draw us to people, that help us have connection in social and professional settings, again, that are really important.
Yeah, and those soft skills, really, I'm telling you, they're going to be so important as quickly as our economy and jobs are changing right now. Those are really going to be the
Yes,
important ones for adjusting with all
absolutely.
of that too. Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness, this is so helpful to our families. That workbook is just going to be huge for actually sitting down and creating a gap year with intention, with some
Mhm.
structure, with some support and accountability. And thank you so much for putting that together for our families.
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity to share.
Yes. So everyone, the link for that workbook is right below this video. Please reach out to Dr. Ajita on her website to say hello and thank you for this. And let's talk again soon, okay?
Absolutely. You take good care.
You too.